Time being 6 o'clock, I'll call this meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Dan?
Here.
Sherry?
Here.
Don?
Here.
Wanda?
Here.
Joe?
At this time, would anybody have a conflict of interest they'd like to declare?
No,
No.
I have not.
I have none. Dan?
I already said I did not, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, before I ask for approval of the agenda, there's two additions we need to make. One was my error, but we talked last time about interim director of equalization. So I'd like to put appoint interim director of equalization at 18A. And then there's ARPA funding. We need to have a supplemental budget hearing at the next meeting. So we need to put authorization for budget hearing. I put it under 20 at the end of, after claims and auditor treasurer report.
Is that 20A?
There's already two items under 20, so don't, I thought about that, Wanda. I'm leaving it as 20, just adding that. Any other additions or corrections?
No executive session.
Oh yeah, thank you. No executive session necessary, so item 23 can be stricken.
I would move to approve the amended agenda.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Nay.
That was 4-1, yes. Okay, at this time, I'd entertain public comment. If anyone in the audience would care to come forward for any public comment. Hearing and seeing none, public comment is closed. Okay, we're gonna look at some liability insurances. Ms. Bren, if you wanna come forward for the South Dakota Public Assurance Alliance liability quote.
Good evening. It's everybody's favorite topic, right? We're going to talk about coverage and insurance. So I've been here the last couple years, so I'm not going to take up a ton of your time. We've talked at length about the different programs and services that the risk pool has to offer. Just as a kind of a reminder, the risk pool is not insurance. We are a risk-sharing pool, so all of the public entities that are involved in our pool, they are local communities. It's public entities across South Dakota. Our services are focused on South Dakota public entities and all of those opportunities that we have. Really, the people who serve you, all local. South Dakota, your claims folks will come from Sioux Falls. I come from Harrisburg. We have Becky Brunsing, who actually lives in Wagner, so she would be able to come over and help you guys out if that was something that you needed when you come into the pool. We have tons and tons of loss control resources available. If you have the opportunity or had the opportunity to talk with any of the members of the pool, they would let you know certainly about our hotline opportunities. I will share with you one story that after one of our presentations to the commission, we actually had a call come into our employment practices hotline looking for some advice, but unfortunately we couldn't help out because you guys hadn't joined the pool yet. So we'll get there, right? If it's not this year, we'll be back next year to take a look at it. Property, just a reminder, we do property surveys to make sure that your values are on point. We don't have any co-insurance, blanket limit for all those full replacement cost coverages, things like that. Those are pretty important things to remember. Wind hail deductibles are the same as your all other peril deductible. A lot of times in commercial coverage, you're gonna see a separate wind hail deductible, and that is the most common type of claims we have in South Dakota, because we are a windy, haily state. We don't have any co-insurance requirements, so those are just kinds of some things to think about. Liability, the limits are the limits. In your packets, we did quote a couple different options because you had asked for those options in the past. And so just to stay consistent with what we had done for you before in our quote process, we went ahead and offered those numbers again. We did quote with and without the ambulance and emergency services because that was something that we took a bunch of time with previously to kind of split those out. So those were some options that were offered for you. I know I just have a little bit of time. So I just really wanted to kind of remind you of all of the extra services. The program is intended to be proactive, so we are here to help you when you need us. We want to give you the opportunity to control your claims exposures through loss control and risk management as opposed to coming in after the fact and trying to clean up those claims at the end. Do you have any questions about the quote that was sent along to you? I think Patty included that in your packet, so if you've got any questions, I'd certainly be happy to help you with those now.
I know last year we had a long discussion about the special coverage that the emergency managers have and
Sure.
et cetera. And you had last year given 2 quotes. One included everything and one excluded if we wanted to keep that coverage. Did you do that this year?
Yep, so there should be 2 sheets. So in your packet, when you page through after you can see on the top, it says the quote without emergency management and ambulance services, and then there's a little kind of fact sheet, and then another one with that ambulance and emergency services. So there should be 2 pages. They look really similar. It's just one says with and one says without.
Gotcha.
Yep, so you should have both of those quote numbers sent along. And we did include some distribution credits in your quotes again, just because we know that you participate in the workers' compensation fund pool, and so we were able to grip some of those loss control practices, and safety benefits felt comfortable again recommending that you guys get loss control credits right in the door, which is super helpful. That is something that you qualify for. Loss control credits, you qualify in year 1, and then every 4th year, 3 years that you qualify for, and then you go through your loss control surveys, and then you can re-up those credits and stuff like that. So there are other credit opportunities that you would have access to once you come on board to the pool, but I did want to note that we did include those distribution credits again this year. Any other questions? I know you guys have a ton on your agenda, and I just appreciate the opportunity to, again, be here and provide this quote and take some of your time to, even offer you the opportunity, so.
Thank you.
Lynn, how many counties are part of this? Or is it
We have 57 of the 66
57?
counties,
Okay,
yes.
thank you.
And we are actually working on quotes for 2 more counties within the next probably 90 days to start that. We have one that's starting the quote process and one that's midway through, so.
When does this start? When would this? Like,
So
when would
your
the decision-
coverages are effective 1/1, so your renewal dates are January 1st, so you would come on board with the pool January 1st. And then we've got some retroactive coverage quotes in there. There had been some discussions about some possible concerns that you had with some issues that maybe haven't stemmed yet or that may or may not result in claims. So we did do some look-back coverage for you. And we've kind of talked about some other options for those types of claims. But we got some approval to do 3 and 5 year look-back or retroactive coverage, and those quotes are included in your packet as well as far as those. And that is just a one-time payment. So you'd pay for that the first year, and then after that, then it would come off. And that is not included in your summary quote. So you would add those, like if you did a 1-year retro or a 5-year retro, you would add that number for whatever limit you choose to your summary page choice.
Do you guys still offer your HR hotline?
Yep, Employment Practices Hotline is still up and running strong. Any employment-related questions, hiring, firing, disciplinary action, any of those things are absolutely included. Government practices answers pretty much all of the other questions that you might have, and certainly not intended to be a replacement for your state's attorney. It's a resource that we encourage you to use because not every attorney can be an expert in every aspect of the law. So we've got, I like to say, we've got a guy for that. We've got an employment law attorney, and we've got one East River and one West River. So you've got that extra hour of coverage in the evenings because we can reach out to our West River attorney if needed for those types of exposures and questions. Those hotlines have been crucial in, especially when we had COVID and we had marijuana on the docket. We answered a lot of questions through research done under those two hotlines and through panel counsel.
Any other questions from the board at this time? Okay.
Okay, well, I appreciate your time, and are you deciding today on coverage, or will you decide?
I think we probably need to, don't we?
Or you do it the 28th. I mean, it's your choice. If you want to, you can go ahead.
Okay. So, yes.
Yes and no. No problem. I will stick around for a little bit. If there are any questions, absolutely. If you don't decide tonight and you have questions, call, email, text, however you prefer to communicate. I'm here for you. So
Okay.
let me know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Smith.
We've had this dance a couple of times. You have in front of you, I gave 2 or 3 things I want to talk about. Insurance companies, as you know, in the Midwest, South Dakota, North Dakota, Minnesota, Iowa, have been hit very hard by storms, fires, and so forth. So some of these things, some of these prices that have changed in our office are because of that. Now, I've already delivered the workers' compensation policy to Patty. That went up about 15%. Now, if that first page that I've given you in your packet, I've highlighted the 3 years experience that they're using for the modification of your premium. And you'll see that in 2018, you had very little activity, claim activity. The next 3 years, 2019, 2020, 2021, not so much. I mean, not so good. And so your experience factor went from, this year went from 0.89 to 1.02. That means you had 11% discount last year because of good experience for the prior 3 years. This year, not so much. And in fact, there was a surcharge. And that's 13% over and above what it was a year ago. Part of it's a payroll increase. So payroll increase, experience a fluctuation in those 3. Now next year, a bad year will come off. Right now we're in a really good year. So we'll have 2 good years instead of no good years. And that's on workers' compensation. And that's increased because of the modification, the experience factor, and a payroll increase. Now, the other part of your coverage we're talking about, you've got a sheet in front of you, second page, showing the pricing. And that went up about 9%, 9+%, between 9 and 10%. Most of it was in the property insurance. They raised the valuation. They found in these storm claims that most people were underinsured drastically. And so they've gone and done a reappraisal of all the properties and raised the total value of the county properties to $41 million. Before it was 30-some million. And that's most of the increase in premium. The rates have changed a little bit, but more so the valuation has gone up a bunch. And they think this is the right amount to have for replacement cost coverage on your properties. The other items on there are just the pricing. A couple of them have gone up a little. Most of them not much in the common market, the market today. So the 9% increase is on the low end of policy increases in South Dakota. I'm not sure what the pool experience has been, but I know that most insurance companies in South Dakota have had a couple tough years. And that's I don't feel sorry for them. You don't feel sorry for them. That's what they're supposed to do. But it is what it is, and so they raise rates and raise deductibles and so forth. Now, we have available, EMC Insurance Company has available loss classes, minimize losses. The thing we find out with counties, cities, schools, they just don't have the time to take away from what they're doing to organize a safety meeting of some kind. Now, you can have a safety meeting every month of the year if you want one, but your employees, I don't think want to do that very badly, and but it's available. The pool has phone services. EMC has your safety experts down in Omaha. They come this way, and all they need is a call from me or you to make themselves available for safety meetings, loss exposure, recommendations, and so forth. The pricing on that policy does not include, that I've given you on the second page, does not include the ambulance and the emergency management. That's a separate policy. It's on called a fire pack. That's around $20,000 additional over top of this, separate from this. That's the way that Paul has liked it in years past. That's the way that the ambulance people have liked that program. It does some things that other policies don't do. It. That is not included on here. That's a separate item. There are retro dates on our policies for the county commission that goes back to 1993. So if something comes forward that happened from 93 to today, it would be covered under that commission liability policy. On law enforcement, it goes back to 2009. Now, you've got the example from years ago about the Beatrice bunch that was put in jail for 20 years and ended up paying $28 million. You wouldn't have $28 million worth of coverage because you don't have that much, but at least you'd have coverage for those kind of claims. Flint, Michigan, every time you hear about people being in jail, incarcerated for the wrong reasons, and after 10, 15, 20 years, they come out and they want their just dues, you know. So that goes back to 93 on your county commission for decisions made, and on the law enforcement, the sheriff, it goes back to 2009. Anything that happens that shows up back that far. I'm going to mention one more thing. I'll think of it as I talk. Ask about make a decision night. You should do that because the 20th, and you got to get your notes to the companies in time to process the policy January 1. So that would be not. I guess you're going to have one meeting at the end of the month. Usually you have that, or maybe not. 28th. Well, that would be not late, but kind of late. So any questions I would answer. This is quick and not so easy. I wish the rates would go down. They aren't going to. We see rate increases, and you're part of the bunch of people in South Dakota that have the insurance and have the claim. You don't have the claims, but somebody's having them. Most of them are wind and hail and fire claims. Any questions at all on work comp or on the property liability coverages?
Does the ambulance and emergency, does that renew January 1st? as
January
well?
1.
January 1.
Yes, sir. Yep.
Did insurance cover it when the dump truck tipped over?
Yep,
Excuse me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mike's dump trunk,
Oh,
dump truck.
I got you.
That dump truck, that Mike, the insurance paid it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yep.
we-
I don't think
check for
Mike
that.
tipped it over.
yeah.
No, Mike didn't, but
Allegedly.
It got done, didn't it?
Just to be clear.
Finally? Yeah. Well, I'd answer any questions. Thank you for the time. This is the quickest it's been. I appreciate it, and you guys appreciate it. Have a Merry Christmas, and I'll wait for your answers.
Thank you.
Thanks, Roger.
Thank you, Roger.
How's the commission feel? We ready for some discussion, maybe decision?
Well, I personally like the idea that the county has look-back coverage without an additional cost, because obviously the county has had some issues lately. I shouldn't say lately, in the past couple of years.
Well, and I think that's been one big sticking point in the past, and there was one of those large cases we thought would be over, and that is not.
And I don't think the decision is coming out at the earliest until February.
Correct. Any other thoughts on,
So if you look at the package deal for each of them, there's $13,000 difference. Smith is slightly higher. And that's it.
when figuring in a 5-year retro?
Correct.
Yeah,
Yep. And the 6 million
at 6 million, yep.
to be apples to apples as close as you can get.
Yep.
And I actually didn't think 9.5% was too bad. I mean, considering what all the losses we've had in the Midwest. So, I'm good with making a decision tonight.
I can be as well. Any other discussion? Thoughts?
Do you need a motion?
I would entertain a motion.
Me to go? I would move to stay with the Smith Insurance for our property, liability, and work comp.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. 5-0. Okay. Thank you for your time, and Merry Christmas.
Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you. Stay warm.
Okay, item 7, bridge inspection report, and then we'll go into the RAIF application and award. You go to sleep on you?
Is this in the packet?
No.
Mike will have a copy of it on this jump drive I'm giving him, so if you guys need it.
Yeah, I think we generally like to post those on the county
Okay.
website, so.
You make sure that, yeah, give it to you guys. All right, good evening, everyone. I'm here to talk about the 2022 Yankton County Bridge inspections. My name is Joshua Prather, and this is Adam Pollock. So just a couple things on the bridges. There were 68 bridges looked at this year. You have 69 total structures right now. The extra one is a box culvert that only has to be inspected every 4 years, and it didn't get inspected this year. There's a condition of the bridges. 52 would be in good, which is sufficiency over 60. 13 in fair, and then 4 of them would be in 4. I looked back at you guys' bridge inspections in 2020, and we had 33 posted bridges, and this year there was only 24. So a lot better in the last 2 years. So I'm going to highlight 4 bridges for this PowerPoint. I'm sure you guys know which 4 they are, the Gem River ones. So we'll start with this one, the Stone Church Bridge. I'm sure you guys are all familiar with the location of this one and what's going on with this. We'll go to the next one. Here's a picture of the bridge. You can see in the picture on the left, we have the snooper truck out there. We do that to all 4 Gem River bridges every year. Get underneath them with that boom truck and look at them. Picture on the right is just a rocker bearing. It's kind of rocking out of place. It's been that way since I've been inspecting it. So. Same thing there. It looks like that's starting to go a little farther, but it's roughly about the same, that bolt pulling out of the bearing. And then that picture on the right is the abutments that are deteriorating. And they just continuously do that every couple of years. A couple more pictures of how it's deteriorating. Just a couple recommendations. The structure's near the end of its life and should be programmed for replacement, which we're in the process of right now. Per that note there, we're in the process of getting a replacement grant.
How long does this bridge have rough? I know I can't hold you to it, but
I mean, we didn't see a lot of deterioration the last 2 years. I mean, really the whole county didn't see a lot of deterioration the last couple of years. It's been dry. That usually helps the bridges. It's not like the floods we got in 19 and 20. So, I mean, as far as what happened in the last 2 years, I mean, you got 2 more years.
does it have 10 years? Does it have less than that?
How many floods are we gonna get? I mean, I don't know.
Probably 7.
Yeah, right.
The reason I asked is, our dates came back double or triple,
Mhm.
so we're having
Yeah,
difficulty figuring out how to pay for this.
yeah, and we can talk about that towards the end if we want to talk about, because I know we're going back for more money too at the big grant process. So, but as far as how many years it has, I don't know. I don't want to be wrong and tell you it has 10 years, but if they follow those postings, I'm sure it could last that long. But overloading, floods, all that other stuff, they might not have that long. I don't know. Next one we'll talk about is the Jamesville Bridge. Yeah, about the same structure, built roughly the same year. Here's the profile of the bridge. You can see those rocker bearings in a little better condition. The picture on the left is the bent cap 5. That was an emergency repair we did in 2019 during that flood. That was actually kind of a fun project. We were out there on the ice. I was out there with him the whole time, and we drilled those bolts through there to hold that. And it's holding up really well. And the picture on the right is just some deterioration on the ends of those bent caps. So this one, just a couple repair recommendations, is get that debris off those bent caps where those open joints are, and off the abutments. And then we'll continue to post it the same thing it was last year at 2431. The Johnson Bridge, yeah, about the same thing. It's built 5 years later, but the length's about the same. Efficiency was about the same as Jamesville too. Profile picture again, rocker bearings in pretty good condition. Those are typical bolted splices. We found no splices that were cracked this year. Everything was good. So there's just a typical, I think there's 4 of them on the Johnson Bridge. And then there's the deterioration on the bent cap we see on most of these bridges. Same recommendations, just continue to post it at 2432, no change there. And then this one is currently in a preliminary engineering grant to determine if we're gonna replace or rehab the bridge. We just got that grant, was that this fall? Yeah. So, I think we just started that. We got the survey done right before the snow flew in November, so we're working on that now.
If you back up when you're talking about putting bolted splices at all the locations, even the ones that currently aren't cracked?
So I think that will probably be part of our, if we do a rehabilitation on that. We'll have to do a feasibility study, cost benefit ratio, all that good stuff.
Sure.
So we just kind of started on it, but yes, I'd assume that would be part of the rehabilitation, is, so you don't have to worry about
Yeah.
that anymore.
It seems like the problems we've had with that bridge is the splices.
Mhm. And the last one, Fleegs Bridge, right outside of town here. A little bit lower sufficiency rating, but it's all about the same. Years built and the length of the bridge. Here's the profile of the bridge. There's some of the issues we're seeing is some section loss on those bearings. Again, it hasn't changed much in the last couple of years, but it takes years for that stuff to deteriorate. So the picture on the left was the one area that we have a crack splice on Fleegs. This crack didn't go all the way up into the flanges, so we were able to drill it out with crack tips. It hasn't changed at all. I think this happened in 2020, and I inspected it last year and this year, and looks good. Hasn't gone any farther. Picture on the right, same thing we see on the bent caps, deterioration. This one too, just leave the posting at what it is, 2440, no change. I'll note on this one too, we're also in the preliminary engineering stages for replacement. I think that's the way they lean towards the TSNL.
Didn't we change the posting on this one?
So we did last year, it was at 2436. And then we did change it, based on a different model, we changed it to 2440. All right, does anyone have any questions?
Were you to choose two bridges in the county to keep, what two would they be?
I mean, from structurally,
Strictly from structurally. We'll take care of the other considerations.
so you're asking me which two would be in the best condition? Currently, right now? Johnson.
For sure,
Fleets?
Johnson
probably.
Bridge.
Probably Fleets. Probably Johnson and Fleets.
And what was the other one?
Fleets.
Johnson and Fleets would be the two that I would say of these four bridges, probably two in the best condition.
Strictly structural.
Structurally.
Because we're talking upwards to $100 million, I suppose, to repair them all.
It's probably a little high, but by the time you get them all built, with the prices going up the way they are, yeah, you never know.
Well, Stone Church came in about 10, roughly, just call it 10. You got 4 of them, there's 40 right there. We know Fleegs is a little worse. That's if you do all 4 of them. And I think there is a conversation about if this county needs 4.
And hopefully the other 3 aren't as bad. I know talking with one of the contractors, part of the reason their bid was high, and I don't know, was just the lay of Stone Church Bridge and that long span and being low, and they assume that it would be multiple years of flooding, and they're working around that. So hopefully the other 3 would not necessarily be that same scenario, but
It's
It can be-
impossible for us to maintain our highway system and maintain 4 bridges. It just, the taxes would have to go so high that,
When these were all built in the 50s, I assume that was federal or state money to build these. I wouldn't think the county had enough money to build 4 of these within a few years of themselves. Are you guys aware of that, Mike?
Looking at the original construction plans, the the state of South Dakota Department of Transportation is all over them. I'm assuming there was at least state funding, if not federal funding, to build all those. That is my hunch. I have nothing to back that up.
Well, you would think certainly Old 50 because it was a state highway. Certainly that bridge was a state bridge.
Any other comments?
Thanks for coming down.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Are you gonna leave a copy of that on the
Mike,
desktop
do you want to
or
come and run the
do you
or talk
just
about
make out a
the
copy of that or something?
RAIF applications, the rural access? We had 4 townships have applied for a total of 8 structures to be replaced. I think they're all at an 80-20.
Well, we got Marindal, Walshtown, Turkey Valley, and Mayfield all applying, each with 2 structures. I guess where do you want me to start?
Do you don't have this packet?
They're in there.
Yeah, I'm talking about Mike.
I got the
Oh.
originals.
Yeah.
In our order, it's Marindal's first and
60 by 50. Culvert replace, this one.
on 447.
Okay,
So are we planning to walk through each one of them, or has everybody already looked at each of them? Because when you compile it all and you add up the county share that, or I shouldn't say the county share, the Rural Access Infrastructure Fund share totals 252,000. We have 290,000 available in the fund.
Yep. And yeah, I don't expect you to go through it in detail on any of these. I thought maybe just a location, cost estimate, and then we'd talk total dollars.
yeah, the first one they have for Marindal Township. Size, it's culvert, 60-inch by 50-footer. Total project cost estimate of 10,000. So the grant request amount would be 8,000. 2,000 out of the township's match. Culvert is in rough shape. You guys got all the photos too there,
Yep.
right?
Yeah. Yeah, we have everything in the packet. It's more just a rehash, so.
The bottom of the culvert is in tough shape there, as you can see. And the overall point scoring system was 10.75.
Right.
Do we have a cutoff or anything for the scoring system?
For a low score? No. That's kind of hard to, I guess. What if they all score, if your cutoff point is 5 points and they're all around 5?
No, I mean, but we have some 13s and then some 3s too.
Right.
So, I mean, that's a huge difference between,
And that all
Those
depends
ones.
on the, if it's residential, commercial, recreational, 'cause recreational right there, if there's public hunting or
well, that's just
or
two,
fishing, there's
2 points.
2 points right there.
yeah.
Poor, critical,
Looking at a lot of these aren't even posted,
and most of them will not be,
just because,
just because they're not on a yearly inspection.
oh, that makes sense.
They're not required by the state.
Were any of the projects, the 8 of them, did you find that any of them maybe weren't necessary, or would you think that all of them would be warranted, I guess?
After looking at all of them, even the culverts, they're all due for replacement. Are there some worse than others? Yes.
Which ones are worst?
Well, Marindal with that wooden structure, if you look at the photos on that, it's leaning, the north wall, abutment wall is leaning in, and it's reinforced with steel I-beams. On the north wall again, the pile on the north abutment are rotted off. It is narrow, the grade is steep along the sides, and they want to, when we're replacing it, they'd go to an 80-foot length culvert, which would help make the road safer. There would be not as steep inclines.
Right.
And scoring wise, I don't agree with some of the scores on, we had that hired out from an outside source. That one has got 0 points because it's rated as fair. And I don't know if I would have rated that as fair. I'm not an engineer, but from what I'm seeing, I wouldn't rate that as fair in my eyes, but.
And why is the user impact only 0.75 on that one?
Well, you take the ADT, daily amount of traffic, times detour length, divided by 100, which gives you 0.75.
So on that particular structure, they're looking at a total project cost of $40,000, $32,000 out of the rural access fund.
We have how much to spend this year? Would you say?
290,000.
How much next year?
And I forgot to look that up in my records, and I don't have it, but I'm pretty sure it's close to 200,000 next year, and 200,000 the year after that.
Right.
Does that sound about right?
Right.
It's
I was
around
thinking
there.
I think it was a little more than that, but I could
Maybe
be
it was
wrong.
204 or something, but
And I don't have a problem with any of these, but realistically, less than, we have the majority of the county didn't apply this year. All the organized townships, yes, some of them did, but Utica North didn't, and was it Mission Hill North, they didn't apply for any, plus all the unorganized townships as well. So we have really the majority of the county who hasn't had the opportunity to apply for these yet. And it's my suspicion, the majority of the people who fought to get this through are not in the legislature anymore come January 1st, so I don't know if we're gonna see this type of funding again. So,
Say that again?
so what
like
does
Caleb
that
Fink,
mean?
who led the charge to get this through, he didn't win his election. So I guess what I'm saying is we can't depend on the rural access infrastructure to go forward forever. Because after this year, next year, year after that, there very likely won't be any funds left.
Well, we can't rely on the big grants to go forward for the county either, but we still do
Well,
our
that's
best
just-
to,
You have a different opinion.
to look
than I do.
through.
I just wanna make sure that the bridges or in the culverts that are in the worst shape get the attention that they deserve. Because of your procedure that you guys did, none of the unorganized townships are even looked at, and then Utica North,
Don't they
They're-
have to step up and say, we have a bad culvert?
well, Utica North, I don't think they applied, and then Mission Hill North, they didn't, I don't think they met the, what was it, the
Mike,
tax criteria?
is this the program that we had the
Special meeting for?
special meeting here and invited, and only 4 counties, or 4 townships?
Only 4
showed up?
townships applied.
4 applied,
The
2
others
showed
didn't
up.
apply?
And wasn't it advertised?
Yes,
Right.
it was.
And all the townships were invited.
And there was multiple emails of information as the legislation went through, beginning in January, of where it was at, where we thought it would end up, when it got changed, when it was finalized, and then we had the official meeting and such. So certainly the information was disseminated. And at a minimum tonight, we need to award the top 4, at a minimum. And that happens to be one, each of the townships gets a project. The other option is just to award everything that applied because we have the money sitting there. But if we add just the top, so that's 68, and that's 10,
I'll
and
go-
80.
Yeah, go ahead.
So that's 8, that's 158,000 if we award the top 4 of the 290. So you'd carry over about 130,000 for next year, you'd have another 200,000 on top of that.
So Marindal is looking at replacing a culvert at $10,000, $8,000 to the county, as well as a wood bridge at, what did I say, 40,000, that 32 to the county. Then when we scroll down, we get to Mayfield is next. Mayfield is applying for culvert, that's really, it's a concrete bridge in poor condition. They want to replace that with culverts. That's a $75,000 project, $60,000 to the county. They also have applied for
Culvert project.
a culvert project, 2 culverts, $35,000 estimate, $28,000 to the county. And
Bob,
this
are
pays
these-
off of the actual.
Are these your 2 worst
project cost,
structures you
right?
guys have in your township? These ones on the application here? Or you guys are from?
They're Walshtown.
Okay, never mind, my apologies.
Okay, and the message to the townships was, yes, apply for at least the very first one to apply for your worst. If you scroll down, there's like 70-some pages here, so give me okay, Turkey Valley shows up next. They've got a 72-inch by 50-foot culvert. Replacement total project cost $12,275. That's $9,820 to the county. And their other application is for $9,900 total project cost, $7,920 to the county. That is a 54-inch by 40-foot culvert. It's, and then we go to Walshtown. Somewhere, I can find it. There. There's a concrete box culvert with 2 steel culverts, and widen the road, similar to what Marindal's doing there. The sides are steep. That is a $99,500 project estimate. $79,600 to the, I say to the county, it's to the Rural Access Fund. And the next one is a culvert, looking for the size. It's a $32,750 project. Rural Access Fund would be tapped for $26,200. So those are the 8 projects that are for discussion, and
Joe, I guess my feeling is, if we put it out, we invited people in to discuss the program. They decided that they didn't want to either come to the introduction or that they had no needs. So I would make a motion that we approve the 8 requests. And next year they can apply if they want it.
Okay.
Second.
So there's a motion and a second to approve the 8 projects in total that have been requested tonight. Further discussion?
And then we are gonna have unorganized townships being eligible next year. Right.
Weren't
So,
they eligible this year?
No. Well, that's
They
that's
were.
one of the issues that I had, as we had this meeting and discussed it, and then somewhere along the line, half of the county got left out. And I don't know whose call it was, and it doesn't matter at this point.
Well, I think
So
we
all
just-
the that was never brought in front of the
Dan,
commission.
it wasn't.
So-
And not everything is. The discussion that we had, you asked about it, and Mike said, I made that call because I feel
I realize that, but.
Mike is
half
the head
county
of
got-
the
More than half of the county got left out of this one. So that's fine, that's all I have, I'm ready to move on.
Again,
I think
Mike
these are
said that
good
he made the
projects.
call, and I
these are good
think
projects, but
4 of us supported Mike's decision maybe, and 1 didn't, and that's fine, and that's how it is. But the county did have an opportunity to apply for these, and Mike stated his reasonings at that meeting, and I supported it. And there will be a chance next year to apply. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? I didn't hear you, Dan.
you could call roll call if you'd like.
Roll call vote.
Don,
Yes.
Wanda,
Yes.
Sherry,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes,
Joe.
Yes. Motion passes. Projects are approved. Okay, item 8. Jim, come forward, please.
Did everyone get a copy of the list?
Yes.
Basically, every 5 years, we need to redesignate noxious weeds that are locally noxious. So that's just for Yankton County. And it's aside from the state noxious weed list. The list hasn't changed. It's the same one that we had before, with one exception. Absinthe wormwood used to be on the list, but it has now moved to the state noxious weed list. So what I'm looking for is approval of the list.
So what's listed here is not on the state list.
Right, there's 2 lists.
Interesting.
The state has different requirements.
Gotcha.
I'd make a motion to approve the locally noxious weed list.
Second.
Further discussion?
I know I've got a lot of weeds I could ask to add, but that's a long story.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
And then, if you sign that, we'll just pick it up later.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thanks,
Yep.
Jim.
Jim?
thanks, Jim. Okay. Veterans Quarterly Report. Cody is not here, but I have his report, and I will,
We should have put all the weed at the same time.
quickly go through it. So I'm gonna read through what Cody submitted for his quarterly report. Spoke to the GFWC Women's Group on 11/5/22, attended Veterans Day programs at Irene Wakanda, Yankton Middle School, and the Center in Yankton. Received a donation from Beetle Elementary for $393.50. And was able to get 16 gas cards at $25 for veterans. Received over 100 thank you cards and 157 pairs of socks from GFWC. Yankton socks were given to veterans at Pathway Shelter, HSC, and the nursing home. Socks were also given to veterans in the community. Cards were given to the nursing home and also HSC. They were also handed out at a Veterans Day program. Retroactive amount from October 1st to December 19th was $22,035.85, with the year ending at $342,988.05, compared to $102,523.05 last year. Monthly awards, October, there was $34,418 awarded. November, $32,640,000 awarded. December, to date is $21,253 awarded. Totaling, totals as of 12/19, $88,321.97. Entertain a motion to accept this report.
So moved.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay. Gary, couple of plats. Plenty of plats.
End of year, yeah, we have 6 plats in front of you. First one's a plat of lots 7 through 14, Drake subdivision in the northwest quarter of the northeast quarter. Section 17, Township 93 North, Range 56 west of the 5th Principal Meridian, Yankton County, South Dakota.
Move approval.
Second.
Further discussion?
Is,
All,
is this the one where he was gonna put
homes.
multi-family units on it?
Yep.
Correct, yeah, he was gonna have 16 units, we're going down to 8 single lots now.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
Second one's plat of Lot 12, Block 1, Beaver Beach Park, in Lot 11 of the southwest quarter of the southeast quarter, being a replat of Lots 11 and 11A in Block 1 of the Beaver Beach Park, Section 27, Township 95 North, Range 56 west of the 5th Principal Meridian, Yankton County, South Dakota. These lots were pre-ordinance. So basically, he's buying a garage lot to the north and actually making it more compliant, but these things were only like 20 by 60 and 30 by 60 lots back then, so this is actually helping a little bit.
Plus, it's kind of all family, isn't it?
Yeah, this is actually Mike Stevens is buying this garage and extra lot.
Move approval.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
Next one's plat of tract 9 of DJ's Addition in Lot A of Section 16, Township 93 North, Range 55 West of the 5th Principal Meridian, Yankton County, South Dakota.
Move approval.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
Next one's plat of tract 1, Little Addition in the southwest quarter of the southeast quarter of Section 2, Township 93 North, Range 56 West of the 5th Principal Meridian, Yankton County, South Dakota.
Move approval.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
Next one's plat of Kukta 3rd Edition in the northeast quarter of Section 6, Township 93 North, Range 55 West of the 5th Principal Meridian, City and County of Yankton, South Dakota.
And this is the location.
This is for the school.
Move approval.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
Last one's plat of Tract 1 and Tract 2 of the Springwater Addition in Lot K-1 of the northwest quarter and the northeast quarter of Section 15, Township 93 North, Range 56 West of the 5th Principal Meridian, Yankton County, South Dakota.
Move approval.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Gary. Hope I got a lot of ink in my pen here, Patty.
I can get 2 pens.
Yeah. Okay, item 16, December 6, 2022, meeting minutes.
Move to approve.
Second.
See you guys. Yep.
Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed?
I'm sorry, I'm not opposed, so we'll continue.
Thank you. Motion passes. Okay, item 17, medical cannabis renewal fee. We talked about this at the last meeting. I know there's at least one applicant in the audience. Do you want to come forward?
Hello, Amanda Johnson, Yankton County resident. I am part of Happy Flower Healing, as you know. We have 3 medical cannabis licenses in Yankton County. And I know at the last meeting, we discussed some of the fee for 2022 and 2023. And I know as commissioners, you're always worried about blowback, and one of the issues you had with this was licensees coming in and saying, hey, if there's any special accommodations made for these fees, people coming in and saying, well, you did it for them, what about us? And it being a slippery slope and, just setting a precedent. And we feel a precedent should be set in terms of if there's something like this situation where you need approval from the county, and then that needs to go on and get a final approval from the state, and those work in conjunction with one another, that those dates coincide. So we're not sitting here like us, and we paid $15,000 for 2022, and for 6 months of that was just, we couldn't do anything. Our hands were tied. It was null and void until we received the final approval from the state. And, we're not standing here saying, hey, there's delays, we have construction delays, there's supply chain issues with COVID, which, none of that is in our control, but that's certainly been the case. But we're not standing up here saying that. We simply couldn't start even getting to the point of becoming operational until we had that final approval from our license from the state. We spoke with the state. They did not advise us to do that. That would have been presumptuous to start throwing money at something when we didn't know that if we would have been approved or not, because approval from the county didn't mean that we would be granted the license from the state. So we are just asking for consideration for the 2022 fee. We paid, like I said, the $15,000 in 6 months of that. We were unable to do anything. I know we've also heard, the county approved it, the state delayed. That's kind of an issue to take up with the state, but as elected county officials, you worked with the state, you worked to draft these rules and regulations for our county, and worked with the state in conjunction with the state. And even though there was a lot to muddle through, and again, no finger pointing, it was a lot for everyone with things changing, the rules and regulations. But at the end, we knew that we needed both of those approvals in order to move forward. So we do feel falling back on the applicants or the licensee is a little bit, it was out of our control. And so, again, we're just asking for consideration with that. And I do feel like at the last meeting, your minds were made up. They're probably made up tonight, but, just as elected officials, we are asking you to just have an open mind. And I think if you were in our shoes standing up here, you would probably be saying the same thing. You pay a fee, and you are able to operate once you are approved. And that wasn't the case for 6 months for us for 2022. So thank you for your time. Do you have any questions for me, or is there any discussion?
I know when we were deciding whether to set our fee, some counties have it, I believe, at $100,000. Some of them are a lot more than that. And what Yankton County did is we set our fee, I think we're one of the lowest ones in the state. And then we also allowed 10 of the different types of licenses, so that small local people could get involved in that, and we had a debate right here. And the deciding factor was, we're gonna keep it at $5,000, but make it non-refundable. And the reason being is the county we don't get sales tax, we don't get any of that, so we only get property tax. So if the sheriff has to go out there, ambulance or whatever, the only way we're really getting funding for that is property tax and then the fee. And I understand your position, I feel for you. I wish the state would've approved you the next day.
Well, and the state,
Fortunately,
as far
they
as the
didn't.
state, I
Yeah.
mean, there were larger counties, our
Sure.
county did move, we were behind a lot of larger counties, so there was a bottleneck at
Yeah.
the state.
Yeah.
And so, that was really of no,
Yeah.
and usually when you do pay a fee, for a time period, a year,
Sure.
You are able to operate once, you have paid that fee for that year. But for 6 months, we were unable to do anything.
It's tough. Tough decision.
What do you mean when you say that the county was behind?
Well, Rapid
Because
City was in
we had
before
our
you.
regulations or rules in place by the deadline that the state required, so I don't know how we were behind.
Well, I'm not saying, like I said, no pointing fingers, but there were a lot of counties in before Yankton County for the state. And I don't know why that is. I don't know if their counties drew up their rules and regulations more quickly and people were able to apply and get approved through their county and then that get pushed on through the state. But I know we were behind, other counties. And again, that's just the way it was. But that was one of the reasons why we were 6 months delayed and some of the other people were back to June for their approval.
Deb, wasn't that
I think our
an
ordinance was
October
in place.
31 deadline?
Right, we met that deadline. Again, the difficulty was, I think some of them in Rapid got state approval before county approval, because you could do it either way.
And on the application, you have to submit your county approval in order to submit it for the state. That's how it was for us, so I don't know.
Yeah, but you could submit it saying without it. You could say you didn't have the Form E yet. So there were people that did state first, and then once they got the county approval, they submitted the Form E, so.
And didn't we let 21 and 22
Go
be
together.
together?
It was like 7 days before 2022, I think, is when we received approval from the county.
Amanda, do you want, what do you want? Do you want
Well, I know that we
15,000? Do you want 10,000? I guess what's the number?
I feel like we think it would be most fair to be prorated for those 6 months that we were unable to do anything. We don't think that that's unreasonable.
So what happens then if you don't get up and running until August of '23?
Well, again, it's not that we are construction delays. We need to be operational by May. We are close to being operational, but we couldn't start even getting to the point of becoming operational. We couldn't start any of the construction or any of that until we were granted final approval from the state, which was the end of May 2022. So for those 6 months, we just sat and wait.
And every business has its challenges when you get into the licensing arena. I worked in the ethanol industry, long time, did permitting for air, water, whatever they needed, and they were always at risk getting that license. And then when their plant was started, if they didn't have that license, they didn't get to operate their plant. So it kind of goes hand in hand. Another example, there's a huge delay in construction right now just because you cannot get equipment. Prime example, ethanol plant, just expanded a cooling tower in the millions of dollars. It is sitting there empty today. It will be empty for 18 months because they can't get a switchgear. So there's risk. My point is there's risk in business. And if I was going to build a house today and I get my building permit, I have 6 months to use it. If something happens in my life in that 6 months, I have to come get a new building
But
permit.
when you've gotten the permit, that's on you. From that point,
And it
it's
was on you.
It's not, it wasn't on us. It was on the state
It-
with
it's-
granting final approval.
It is all planning your business, and that is part of the risk of operating a business. And that's just how I view it.
But as the county, you should be encouraging people to come here and start businesses, not putting up roadblocks. And as the county working in conjunction with the state for a license, that should have been something, those dates should have coincided.
And we had a specific discussion about the at-risk, about if you didn't get the state license, do we refund the money? We specifically talked about that and said no. It was a clear discussion, because we went round and round, should there be something in there, if you don't get state permitting, that we refund it? And it was voted on, no refunds.
And we were granted, but we were unable to do anything with your approval.
And I
So do you
feel
think
for
do you think it's right for 2022 to pay that fee and then to go on to 2023 and pay the full fee again and not have anything prorated? Do you think that is a good way as a county commissioner to encourage people to come here and start businesses?
If we are going to prorate, the ordinance needs to be changed. To me, it cannot just be, well, we've got this situation, this time we're going to override our ordinance. I get, things like that start getting you in trouble. And that's my opinion. I'm one of 5 commissioners. That's why there's 5 commissioners. But my vote tonight is not to.
What other examples of you need a county license or you need a county approval and then that turns into you need a final approval of the state? Is there any other license that's an example for that? Like, do we have an example? Is this the only time this is?
Like, well, take hog barns, for example. You need county approval, and then they get DNR approval to build. And so there is a process. Septic.
Is there usually a 6-month delay?
I don't know what I honestly
There's
don't know
one,
what.
I think that's 3 years delayed.
What is, I think the liquor licenses, they're approved here too, but doesn't the state have to check off on them?
I think we can all
I
agree that
really- I
the
feel for
situation
you
wasn't
guys.
ideal by any means in how that's rolled out throughout the state. But to answer your question, there is that, I don't know if I'd say symbiotic relationship, but there is multiple tiers of approval that do happen. Typically, it's just rolled out a little better, I believe. Any more questions for
I guess
Ms. Johnson?
I agree 100% with what Sherry said. That was the history that we went through, position we took.
Was that non-refundable just for the application fee, or was it actually for the license? I guess I was just kind of in the assumption it was application fee, non-refundable, and I get that. And then, once that was approved, it turned into a license. And then, I guess, my understanding of most licenses are, once you get the license, you're actually able to use it. And I guess that's the only reason we were asking for a prorate, is because we weren't actually able to use that license when it was issued, because it needed a second license. And I guess it would have been nice to, have those two in conjunction with each other. And when you got them both together, that's when you can actually use the license. So, kind of in my opinion, the county license was pretty much null. Or if you would have went the state route, you needed them both to make this happen and to actually do business.
And you knew that at the outset.
But again, we did not know that it would be a 6-month delay.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody
Okay,
knew.
and that goes back to the business issue.
Well, I guess
think we're gonna go
the
ahead.
only other
sir.
thing I was gonna say is, I guarantee if any of you were standing in my shoes, you'd be standing up here saying the same thing. You stuck $15,000 into a license that you couldn't use for 6 months.
And we are both 2 business owners
it's-
that pay fees and licenses all the time. I mean,
Yeah,
we
and
know
I'm
how
not-
that works.
I'm not
That's-
expecting a refund. It's just.
We know the risks of business.
When you buy a license, you kind of expect to be able to use it. And in the future, as doing business, if there are construction delays, obviously that's on us. We would never come back and ask. No one should. There's delays in business, switch gears, what have you. That's just business, and that's a delay. But this is kind of a bureaucracy delay, in my opinion. So, take that as you will, but, you should have a license that you can use. And that's why I think it would be most fair to prorate it.
And then how would we prorate it for the other
Well,
four
whenever-
people who have?
Whenever they got their, state license and they had availability, full access to use their licenses,
Then that's on us.
they can move forward.
So-
But if they had construction delays, that's not anything to do with you, county, state.
I
or-
get that. What if somebody got a approval from the county in December? You said 7 days, so we'll go with December of 2021, and then didn't get theirs to the state in time, and we all know that the state takes forever, particularly when you're waiting. And let's say they didn't get theirs until November of '22. What would you suggest?
I just suggest, prorating from the time you are actually able to use the license so you can begin operations. Not necessarily begin operations, begin the process to get to the point of operating.
But isn't part of that on the state?
Well,
Because
it depends on
the
which-
county gave the December 21 and said, don't worry about 22. And it was the state that held it up, correct?
Yeah, but it could have been vice versa too. I mean, if you went to the state first, it could have been the county holding it up.
I mean, I guess it was
Well,
our
yeah.
understanding.
See, the process was laid out. You knew the process. What you didn't know was the time lags.
But in
That's
terms
not
of
our
county
fault.
government, we were under the assumption that the county commissioners and the state officials and those drafting the rules and regulations would have taken this into consideration, so there wouldn't have been that kind of lay, or someone wouldn't have been sitting on that kind of fee, and not being able to operate business.
I think at this point, I think everybody's making the same points. And I think you are heard, and I think discussion here, and I don't know that anybody's willing to make a motion for anything, but I think now would be the time.
Yeah, I'd vote. And then moving forward, I mean, you guys gonna fix up the dates so they're not like 6 months apart? Because the state's.
I can tell you right now, all the counties went with those same calendar year, end of the year.
And the state's just
And the
whatever.
state is whatever. And so you're gonna get renewal from the state, the county deadline, literally across the state, they all went with calendar year.
Sure.
And
this
so,
Date on like liquor is
It-
all at the
It's like
same time.
November, isn't it?
and they're able to do that. I mean, they have someone up there that's going to do that. So I think that's the reason the counties and cities, I believe as well, all went with a
Calendar year.
calendar year.
Sure.
So my understanding is you'll get your notice from the state for renewal if you're June, if you're
Or May.
July.
Yep, May.
Yep, yep. So I don't think it's gonna match up anywhere.
Yeah, ever.
Because, again, we would have to, I mean, it would just be, because we're still accepting, technically, we still have available licenses. So someone could come in tomorrow and apply for a county one. The ordinance says bring it within the next month or whatever. So, we could have a May or April or May
Approval.
approval of a county one, so.
Okay.
I did confirm with the state that they are doing, like, whenever you got your state license.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
I'll give just a minute if anyone wants to make a motion at the commission level. Okay. Hearing and seeing none, we will move on to item 18, declare tax deed property as surplus and motion to abate taxes. That's a no. There was no motion.
There has to be a motion.
To vote on.
And a second.
Okay, item 18, tax deed property.
We just have to declare it surplus and then abate the,
Are those the ones we were handed out like a
Yep.
month ago?
and next year we'll have to decide when to, accept bids. There's a property, I think, that has to be dealt with first. But I wanted to get this, declared as surplus and abate the taxes.
All in motion?
Yes. And then I am working with the city and Mission Hill for those specials.
For
To
what?
maybe delete those specials.
Okay. Now that other one, will that have to be declared surplus then at that time?
No, we can just do.
Or it can be
'cause
part
they
of this.
both, yeah, they both, the city and Mission Hill thought that it would, just to get it back on the tax rolls, all the property.
Okay.
So do we need a motion to put it back on the tax rolls or take
No.
them off?
Take the tax off, abate the taxes,
The 14,874.
to declare it surplus.
You want a motion to declare, do you need
The
the number,
property
do you
that-
need the numbers?
No, I'll put them in there.
I'll make a motion to declare the Mission Hill properties that are listed in the,
No,
Just-
that's just the column there. So
Oh.
essentially, just make a motion to declare,
Property as presented,
there you go, property as presented.
I'll
To
make a-
surplus and to abate the taxes.
you do it and I'll just
Oh,
second
okay.
you.
I'll
Because you're already almost doing it anyway.
move to approve the properties presented as surplus and to abate the taxes, $14,874.33.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay, we're gonna go to item 18A, appoint interim director of equalization. So we discussed last time, we currently do not have an interim director. Michelle Gokin has been filling in and doing that job. And so I would like to bring up that discussion and talk about appointing her as interim and then having that go retro
To
to.
December 1.
To, when did Jessica leave?
September 9th.
September 9th.
So Michelle would have started on the 12th.
Okay. So back to September 12th.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, and then with that, we need to discuss, in that matrix, if she were to move into, I gotta find that email. If she were to move into, director position currently, she would likely be placed at a grade 11, step 2. And that would be a salary of $58,528.24, according to the matrix, how people get placed. So I'm just wondering if that would be the prorated, salary that would go back to September 12th. We should put that as the part of the motion.
Well, shouldn't we have some provision in there pending the outcome?
Well, this is just interim.
This
She
is
would,
interim.
she
We're
would,
not naming her director.
Right.
It's just interim. She's doing the job
Okay.
right now.
How are we doing on all the, tax properties with the splits and all of that? I mean, has Minnehaha County come down and assisted those guys yet?
Yes,
Good.
I was in the office, this is Monday, Tuesday, I was in there yesterday interviewing assessors. And yes, Minnehaha brought 2 people down last Thursday and Friday during the storm. And they did a lot of work. Michelle was very grateful for their time. They did some of the intentions, they walked her through how to do them. They did some of them, they're not all complete yet. She's still getting her arms around where we're going to line up. Splits will be done, target is mid-January. Intention certainly by the end of the year. And building permits are still being worked on by the other two folks in the office. So she felt better about the tasks ahead, and we talked about laying out big deadlines. This is our deadline here, here, and here. So she's in a good spot right now, I believe. The team is. So I would move to, oh, Don, I guess you already had a motion. Are you good with the grade 11 step 2 pay?
Yeah.
Essentially, it's a $1.43 increase per hour is what it is. So if you're good with that, I'll second that motion.
Okay. So there's a motion to name Michelle Gokin as interim director of equalization with salary of a grade 11 step 2 retroactive to September 12th. Further discussion.
Yeah, for further discussion, I guess I feel this should wait till the new year with the new commission coming on. I mean, this is a big appointment, and
Are you going to name somebody else?
I just don't feel it's.
Is there someone else qualified that we can name right now
Mr. Chairman,
today?
I guess I thought I had the floor, but may I continue with what I was
Go
going to say?
ahead, Dan.
I just think it should be waited on and give the other commissioners an opportunity to weigh in. That's my opinion. It may differ from other people's, but
Well,
thank
that
you.
Opinion would have been appreciated when we discussed it. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
Motion passes. Okay, item 20, claims.
What about 19?
Oops, sorry. 19, unanticipated grant revenue. Writing notes over my notes here.
I would move to approve all unanticipated grant revenue.
Second.
Further discussion?
Yeah, what are these for exact?
Oh, they're Paul. They're
Okay, that's what I thought.
grant dollars he got in.
That's what I thought. Okay.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay, item 20 now, claims.
I'd move to approve the claims.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay, November 2022 treasurer and auditor and pooled cash reports.
Move to approve.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay, then the added item, authorization for budget hearing, so we'll need a motion to authorize it. Can it just be generic?
Yeah.
Authorize a budget hearing
Yes.
for,
Authorization for me to advertise for a budget supplement.
Move to authorize the auditor to advertise for a budget supplement.
Second.
further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay, item 21. At this time, would anybody in the audience care to make a public comment? Hearing and seeing none, public comment is closed. Item 22, Commissioner updates.
I have heard from several of the employees that they're having a problem with the Medica insurance, and I don't know if anybody else has heard about that.
I talked to somebody from the jail that indicated they were having problems with Medica insurance, and then I talked to Julie Auk. I happened to run into her at the post office, and she has indicated to me that the problems were taken care of.
Okay.
But that
Great.
the primary problem from the, excuse me, the gentleman in the jail was he was trying to get Medica to cover the annual fee for the wellness center,
Oh, okay.
which isn't really a insurance kind of thing.
Well, any employees, if you are listening and you continue or do have problems,
Let us know.
let us know, by all means.
Or contact Julie out direct.
Correct.
I noticed that in the emails that are going back and forth that we have funds in the jail fund, for lack of a better word, and Mr. Commissioner Clemish and I had talked about getting some estimates for some bars to keep folks from jumping over, because that has happened in the past. So I guess he and I would be inclined to reach out to see what that cost might be.
Okay.
The state gets antsy when a county sits on a bunch of money. They were pretty antsy when we had $1 million in it, and then we had some repairs to make. But we have a very healthy balance in that fund right now, and I did ask Sheriff Vlahakis, because he knows the jail, has been there a long time, and he felt at this time we had plenty of money sitting in there, that if it gets too much higher, again, the auditors will be concerned that we're squirreling money away that we could be using on other things. So at our last meeting, which we need to set tonight, I think we do need to discuss stopping putting any more money in that fund at this point. And then have in mind, if it gets to a low balance, you start
Kick it
putting
back in.
money in and stuff. So then those dollars can funnel to roads instead of sitting in a jail fund if we have no need for it. So, but with that, the last meeting, December 28th at 11 a.m., would that work? Patty wants to make sure we have enough time to enter all the final claims and get things paid before the end of the year. Deputy State's Attorney had court that morning, so we're thinking maybe 11 o'clock would work.
Works for me.
I will double check, but 11 o'clock doesn't typically work for the deputy. That's,
No, because all it is MIs.
okay.
MIs got moved because Monday's
a holiday, okay,
So, and I'm the only one in the office, so there is no night court.
okay.
So 11 should be fine.
So, but we'll do our final transfers if we need anything. Probably look at transferring money out of the ARPA fund, because we made the motion that we could use that against salaries, so then you could use
And-
that on roads and bridges.
And we have used enough. I took January all the way to December for payroll, and we have paid clearly enough so we
Clearly.
can assign all of it.
Yep. So then that money is free to use on whatever government function we want to spend it on. So,
Okay, so we will set that for December 28th at 11 a.m. Is there any more updates? Okay, and then items for that meeting, we got jail fund, budget hearing.
Do we have to set that jail fund at that meeting? I mean, we're having a new sheriff come on a couple days after that.
Well, it doesn't make any difference if the state's gonna have a problem with us having too much money. Because
there's-
the new sheriff doesn't get to just spend it anyway.
No, I know, but I mean, it's, I think, a good idea to have him a part of the conversation, if it was me, I guess.
Well, and that can also be changed at any time, is my understanding.
yep.
I guess.
I mean, the sheriff, in the past 4 years, I don't think the sheriff has necessarily made the determination. He's been asked for his opinion, I guess.
So you're looking at just reducing the amount that we
Yeah.
put in there, or are you talking about transferring?
No,
money?
We can't.
No,
See,
we-
and that's the challenge
It can
is,
only be used on the jail, and
It-
so,
We're gonna stop putting money in, cause
Well, what
cause
are
they're
we
not
at-
spending it on
there's,
anything.
What
there's
are we
roughly
at?
$700,000 in that jail, and we're putting 10% of the revenue in.
We're putting 10%, so you're thinking of moving it to 5%? or?
0.
I would say 0, but that'll be, we can talk at the next meeting, but
But you can only spend, you can't I mean, that's the jail, but it can only be on the jail building.
Yeah, it can't
Right.
be for deputies or dogs or
No,
body
Right.
cams or anything else. It's just for the structure.
So that'll be on the next meeting, we can have this discussion. Anything else for the next meeting items? That I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes, we are now adjourned.
okay, Joe.
Yes, I think so.
Sherry.
Oh, I got one.
Joe.
One, did you second that?
I did.
Adjourn?
Probably the last one I'll sign.